In-home care providers originated from the greater flexibility and choice in childcare elements of the Australian Government's Stronger Families and Community Strategy back in 2000. As you'd be aware, these providers provide care to children who can't attend centre-based ECEC, such as children of shift workers, children in rural areas, as well as children of families with complex and significant needs. Minister, to start off, does the Labor government still consider the in-home care as an important pillar of choice for early childhood education and care in Australia?
We continue to provide support to that program. So in-home care services provide a flexible form of early childhood education taking place in the family home. It's targeted to assisting parents who are unable to access other approved care types, and we continue to support that program.
I've received a significant volume of correspondence in recent weeks from in-home care providers who are currently preparing the families they serve for significantly increased out-of-pocket costs from March due to the long overdue gender undervaluation reforms. Has the department done any modelling, or do you know how much this might cost on average a family accessing in-home care services given the current hourly in-home care rate cap?
I'd have to take on notice when we've done modelling on the impact of the Fair Work Commission wage increase. You mean that? I'll have to take on notice whether we've done any modelling. We've definitely considered the impacts of the Fair Work Commission on the sector and the different sub-care types in the sector. I think I previously said that we are considering the impacts, and the government has said it is considering if and how to extend the worker retention payment to those subsectors, but no decision has been made in relation to that.
Yeah, if you could provide on notice any modelling that you have got, that would be appreciated. Look, providers have told us that it will be easily upward of $1,000 per week passed on to families from March. I suppose, Minister, do you think that's a reasonable sum of money for families to be expected to find to keep this critical service?
I haven't seen that data, Senator. In relation to the worker retention payment, obviously this is a $3.6 billion commitment. It's focused on the 15% pay rise and the gender undervaluation payment decision, as you know, has come out because the government put gender equality as a goal of the Fair Work Act. We continue to work through the gender undervaluation decision, and in relation to in-home care workforce, I think Mr. Reid's taken that on notice. I understand that there is work underway to figure out how to assist that sector to best support the workforce in relation to pay rises, and maybe Ms. Crane, who has further detail on that. But I understand some work is underway.
Yeah. Senator, I think in terms of what Mr. Reid has said around providing what we can on notice, we would do that. Just unpacking one part that the Minister and Mr. Reid said, that there are different employment arrangements under in-home care. That, of course, has been partly why we've needed to go and do more work on this. So in terms of the considerations for government, we do need to think about the differences in what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you. And these providers did notify me that they'd provided this data to the Minister, so I will ask them to perhaps resend that over in relation to that sum, that $1,000 per week. And it was my understanding that in-home care providers aren't actually eligible for worker retention payment currently. Is that correct? Yeah, they're not. Yeah, so that's probably less relevant. And I suppose the consequence of passing this cost on to families is actually more gender inequality, particularly for women who are being forced to decide whether they now need to stay at home instead of participate in the workforce. So I think it is a very pressing issue for many, many families across the country. Can the department please tell me more about the urgent advice they're preparing? Are you preparing? Did you say you are? And does this include potentially increasing the hourly cap for in-home care?
We are preparing advice for government on the impacts of the Fair Work Commission and how that can be best dealt with. I think in relation to the hourly rate caps, I think the important thing is that any changes to those kind of CCS settings are kind of evidence informed, and we are undertaking a service delivery price that will provide really good evidence on the cost of delivering care between the different sectors. And so I think the service delivery price would be a key piece of evidence that could inform future changes to any of the CCS settings. So the work we're doing currently is really how we can best support those sectors in relation to the Fair Work Commission decision to increase the award rate.
Do you think that will happen in time for March, when these pay increases are going to...
Changes to the program? I mean, I think changes to the program would be unlikely by March, just because of the time it would take to implement changes to the program to develop guidelines. I couldn't put a time frame on it, but we are actively considering the impacts and providing advice to government for in-home care and family daycare sectors. But yeah, as Ms Crane pointed out, there are complexities to those sectors in how you could extend the payment in its current form, primarily due to the employment model for a lot of those providers.
So in the meantime, we can assume that there's nothing going to be put in place to stop that cost being passed on in March. There's no stopgap that's going to be in place for these families that are concerned about this.
There's current settings that would subsidise costs in those sectors. Childcare subsidy primarily subsidises a significant cost for those sectors, but I couldn't put a time frame on any changes to existing programs.
And just out of interest, what's the current hourly cap of the IHC program based on?
I'll get that for you, sorry, 1 second. It's 30, I won't guess.
It's $39, but I'm keen to know what that sum's based on, how that's being derived.
$39.80. Well, it was... The initial rate was set at the time the childcare subsidy program was implemented, and it's been indexed since then with CPI. I would have to take on notice the things that went into the initial setting of that hourly rate cap back in 2018 when the childcare subsidy system was introduced, and all rate caps are indexed with CPI.
Yeah, thank you. If you could take on notice whether it takes into consideration any of the overheads of IHC providers in addition.
I can take that on notice and
Thank you. So, Minister, IHC providers have detailed evidence that the hourly rate of $39 is nowhere near enough to cover the costs of skilled and qualified educators. I think this is on top of a lot of evidence from the IHC review, the ACCC and the Productivity Commission that you've already got at your disposal. I'm interested to hear if you've got any comments on why this hasn't been addressed and why we're in February, that these changes are going to come into place in March, and these families are going to be faced with this funding gap and the potential need to return to home to care for them and educate their kids when they don't have this means in-home care. They're priced out of in-home care, essentially.
I just refer you to the work of the department, Senator. So the program continues to be supported by the government. There is work going on in the department around the program and wage issues and arrangements in the program. We continue to support the program, including through the childcare subsidy.
Yeah, look, I just say that many of these families don't feel like they're being supported. They are telling us about the need to unenrol their children. They're drafting resignation letters. They're warning that educators' jobs might be lost. So I'm not sure how much comfort that brings to these people, and just urge the department and you, Minister, to prioritise a solution to this for those families who are feeling immense anxiety as March rapidly rolls around.